Welcome to the Newsa-Cast YouTube channel. These Red Smith Banquet throwbacks are exclusive interviews of sports legends, powerful media personalities, and influential coaches. You won't find these anywhere else. Subscribe below and enjoy. Well, folks, our Red Smith Banquet throwback this week, it's a great one. It takes us back to 1999. What a year. And what a Hall of Famer we have. Not only a Brewer Hall of Famer, but an MLB Hall of Famer as well. And we're talking about number 4, Paul Molitor. Man, it was great to have Molly, I tell you. He's one of the all-time greats, one of my favorite Brewers, one of the best pure hitters ever.
This was a great interview. One of my idols growing up, and it was fantastic to sit and listen to him. And also got to enjoy a few beverages after the show at the filling station. So a great throwback.
Judge Cannon introduces Paul Molitor, who was our Red Smith Award winner in 1999 in Appleton, Wisconsin at the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet.
Now I'd like to ask Judge Robert C. Cannon to present the Red Smith Award to Paul Molitor. Judge Cannon.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, this is always a great thrill to come up here to Appleton and be a part of the world's largest sports banquet and the very best banquet in the world. You know, sitting next to Paul Molitor tonight reminds me of a record that he holds, and no one has even come close to matching him in any respect, and that is, prior to the time that he retired from baseball a couple of months ago, he was receiving 4 checks each month. One check was his salary check, second was his pension check, third was his Social Security check, and fourth was a Medicare check. 20 years in Major League Baseball. And Paul, tonight you can see what kind of a community this is when you look out over this great audience and see people who are giving of their time and energy and effort to helping the community and helping those who are unable to help themselves. Boys and girls who now, from the time that I've been coming here, some 17 years, boys and girls now are educators, they're lawyers, they've got their signs hanging from their windows, the doctors in the operating room, and many of those boys and girls appeared at this podium from time to time and receiving awards and acknowledgement of their scholastic as well as their athletic ability expended on the fields of competition in the Appleton area, for which I want to congratulate each and every one of you for all the work that you've done in making this a better community in which to live. And Paul Molitor, you've been great through the years. You've done so many things that few people know about. Your charitable interests, you're good for your fellow men. You've never turned down anybody for a worthy cause. And there's people like you who put a good flavor on the game of baseball again. I was in baseball for 17 years in one capacity or another with the Brewers, with the Cubs, and the head of the Players Association. And like everything else, you have good lawyers, you have good judges, you have good athletes, and you have bad athletes. And no one can ever point a finger at Paul Molitor and say he was a bad apple at any time. And that we're proud of, not only in Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Brewers, but so are the Toronto Blue Jays, and so are the Blue Twins. I'm thinking of the game last Sunday. I got out of that one, didn't I? And the Minnesota Twins. You're the sweetheart of all of these 3 big cities, and we're proud of you, no matter how much time you spent with Milwaukee or with Toronto or with Minnesota. You know, and I'm just going to tell you a couple of records. I thought the other gentleman who got up here, Bill Smith, tonight, was going to introduce Paul Molitor. The way he was introducing and talking about Paul Molitor, I turned to Pat Richter and I said, hell, there goes my introduction. But I don't think that there's a record in baseball, and I'm not exaggerating, there may be exceptions, but I don't think that there's a record in baseball that Paul Molitor hasn't equaled or surpassed at some time during his illustrious career. I don't think that there's a record that if he didn't pass or equal it, he was second in line. And just to name a few of the records that he did have and set was the 1982 World Series, Milwaukee versus the Cardinals. Paul got 5 hits in the first game, I think it was, of the World Series. And that record has never been equaled or surpassed in all of these years. When he hit his 3,000th hit, everybody can hit a home run. That's easy to do, hit a home run. I'm not kidding you. Now, just listen to me for 1 second. It's easy to hit a home run. It's easy to hit a double. It's easy to hit a single. But it's the toughest hit in the world. I'm sure both the ball players will tell you this. The toughest hit in the world is a triple. And Paul Molitor is in class company with 26 other ball players who have had 3,000 hits. And Paul Molitor is the only ball player that hit 3,000 hits and got it on a triple. I can louse up stories pretty good, but this one I got straight. But ladies and gentlemen, again, it's a great thrill at this time to introduce to you the recipient of the Red Smith Award. He's just the kind of a fellow that I'm a lot older than he is, but you'd like to say, well, that's my son. He's just exemplified everything that we look forward in young people, whether it's in the school teaching business or the medical profession or whatever it might be. He's in the baseball business, and he's a credit to the game, and he's a credit to the teams that he represents, and he's a credit to his family. And so tonight I'm proud to call Paul up here and present the Red Smith Award to him.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Very rousing and much appreciated welcome to our honored guests, and ladies and gentlemen, indeed a pleasure to be here at the Red Smith dinner. I'm not sure where to go with this when your introduction is longer than your speech, but we'll see what we can do. And also, after playing the last couple of years in the Metrodome, it's good to see a big crowd. And I think this banquet outdrew about a third of our games last year. To Otis, I just want to clear up. I'm not sure what happened to that 6-foot chart, but I know one thing: you didn't outgrow it. So that was one good thing. And it's funny. It's funny how when you were 3 when you got it, and I was 30, and now we kind of look the same age. It's funny how that works out. My throat's still a little bit red, and that's, I think, just a residual side effect from some of the choking that went on at the Metrodome on Sunday. But I don't know, I did get attached to the Packers in my years in Milwaukee, but, growing up with Fran Tarkington and some of the old teams, the ghosts are still there, so we'll see what happens. Indeed, it's a pleasure to be back in Appleton. I think back to 1977 after signing my first professional contract and playing for the Burlington Bees and making my way through the many cities in the Midwest League, including Appleton. That's when they were the Foxes, of course, and facing the likes of Harold Baines and really some very great teams. But it's good to be back. And I think the last time I was probably here was one of my former teammates, Chris Bosio, married a local girl here from Appleton and had his wedding up here. And I think that's the last time I had a chance to be through. Just a few brief comments, talk a little bit about some very fond memories of my Brewer days. You know, a lot of great things happened in my 15 years here in Milwaukee, and I certainly was overwhelmed with the phone call from Wendy and Laurel and finding out the news about them retiring the number 4. Very humbling, of course, when you think of Hank Aaron and Raleigh Fingers and Robin Yount. It's just, it's a little bit much to think that you can join that group with their number being retired, but it certainly is appreciated. Thank you very much. I tell you, it was a long, enjoyable journey with my days here. My very first day in spring training, Frank Howard, a Green Bay guy. We all know Big Frank, and I'll always remember my first day in spring training in Major League Camp. Frank hitting me fungos 100 miles an hour on the sun-baked infields of Sun City, Arizona. And I'm trying my best, but they're going off my chest and my wrists, and they're just flying all over the place. And finally, he throws the fungo up in the air. He says, "Son, come in here, son." You know, and so I'm running. I said, yeah, you want me to take some more grounders? And he goes, "I just got one question for you. Was that scout drunk when he signed you?" And I just thought it was kind of a funny way to start my professional career, but things did get better from there. And in fact, it was amazing first season, winning 93 games in 78, and had to wait a couple years to taste postseason play in 81, and of course the tremendously magical ride in 1982. But as I think back to those times, it's not only what happened on the field, it's the friendships that I was able to develop with the people in Wisconsin, of course the city of Milwaukee, and also some very special teammates. I think my number one highlight, if I had to pick one out of my time in Milwaukee as far as baseball was concerned, was that Robin Yount and Jim Gantner and myself have the longest tenure of 3 teammates in Major League Baseball history. And those were 2 guys that I could always lean on. I think it was Robin that said, "Yeah, Jimmy, Paulie, and I, we're 2 of a kind." I think it was. But you know, Jimmy's been well documented on his exceptional use of the English language, and it was funny. I was just on vacation in Hawaii before the holidays, and I was reading a book about like the 1,000 greatest golf quotes of all time, and Jimmy even made that book. I want to tell you, it was Jim Gantner asked to respond to playing a new golf course in Phoenix. Well, it was a great course, but we had to play the contemporary greens. I think it was. In typical Jimmy fashion. But the thing about Jimmy playing with him, I think when Robin and I came up, we were kind of given high expectation levels. And Jimmy was kind of the guy from Wisconsin, hometown, nose to the grindstone, really probably the most respected guy in our clubhouse just because of the way he went about his job. And I never mean it as a detriment when I say that he overachieved. He probably got more out of himself than I thought was possible, the way he was able to grind out, be one of the all-time greatest defensive second basemen, and did a heck of a job us on offense. But great friend, Jimmy, great to have you here. What can I don't know what else I can really say about Robin. Other than that, I literally got chills down my spine when I heard the news about his election a couple of weeks back. I learned more from him about how to approach professional baseball than any other one person. He had an incredible ability to look at today. He could block out failures, about injuries, and go out there and do what he could on that given day to help his team win. And you have all the stats and all the things he accomplished, but to me that was the most amazing thing. That was at bat, game day, that was Robin Yount's approach, and I think he did it pretty well for 20 years. And I'm so proud that of all the people that could go in to Cooperstown representing the Milwaukee Brewers and being the first one to do that, you know, how appropriate, the name that's synonymous with Milwaukee Brewer baseball, and that's Mr. Robin Yount. I'd like to congratulate Bobby Rahal on his Miller Good Guy Award. He'll probably maybe talk a little bit about it. Him and Robin are actually very good friends. I don't know how you know, Robin racing, I guess we could figure that one out, but it's kind of funny, Bobby. I was thinking it kind of took you and I for Michael Jordan to figure out it was a good time to get out, you know? So, in closing, I'd like to say a few things about the award itself. I realize the history of the award and some of the great names that are on the list of previous recipients. To the young people who receive scholarships and the people in the community who are honored for their work in various efforts and endeavors, I can only say that I've realized, probably through experience, that the privilege that it's been to be a major league player and the opportunities that have come forth from that privilege are unbelievable. And unfortunately, I think at times in my career, maybe a little different from what Judge might have said, was that I didn't always take advantage of those. There were times where I maybe abused that stature rather than used it in a constructive way. But through time, I learned that when you're given opportunities, certain privileges, tremendous responsibility comes with that. And it's amazing how you can affect lives in a positive way if you take advantage of that. And I think we can see that here in this atmosphere of this banquet tonight, the people that have been recognized, that indeed if you do take time, you can make a difference. So thank you very much.
Please subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell so you get notified when we post another great episode or interview. Download the podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for your support.